Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where today I learned what El Camino means in English. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Black Keys album by the same name. This is the one that seems to have the most commercial praise and reception around it, the most commercial success, I guess is the even better word for it. And it seemed like just kind of the essential album for them, so I figured this would be a good way to start it off, since I haven't done any reactions to their albums on here, and I just figured it kind of fit in with the crowd of people who are usually watching the videos. Of course, I have gotten a couple requests for this band, and I'm not really sure if this is the album that I have gotten requests for or not, but either way. Now, it would definitely make sense to me if this is the most commercially successful one, because I have actually heard two songs on here, and I didn't even realize that before we got into it. Tracks 1 and 3, Lonely Boy and Gold on the Ceiling, I have actually heard both of those before, and I revisited them just before doing this video just to make sure of that fact, and yeah, I am familiar with both of those. Lonely Boy being the first track on here, I think is a pretty solid opener for this kind of just fun garage rock type music. It's got a very likable chorus, a somewhat likable narrative, or relatable at least. You know, our narrator on here is talking about how he has a love who keeps him waiting, is kind of the sentiment, I guess, the main line as well on here, and he's left being lonely because it's not really working out, or at least that's what I gather from it. It's not very descriptive, not entirely concise on the meaning, so that it's more generally appealing, I suppose. It has some really good guitar sections in here. There's a portion 3/4 of the way through the song that I think most people would be familiar with that I thought sounded really good, so that's one particularly notable thing about it. We'll talk about Gold on the Ceiling though after we talk about track number 2, Dead and Gone, and I am yet to give this one a listen. We got some solid drum taking it off here. This one's much more subtle in comparison. Yeah, this one's much more subtle than the other stuff I've heard. These lyrics seem like they may be continuing off of the previous track. You know, there really just isn't a lot to this chorus here. I mean, it's okay, but not a lot going on here. The song does have a good pacing to it. Okay, honestly, that song was pretty much just existing for most of its runtime there. Definitely was a lot less immediate and fun and catchy than the other two songs that I've heard, just because it was much more mellow and stripped back, but it did kind of have this like downtrodden kind of sadness to it that has a certain appeal to it as well, in this lighter kind of garage rock kind of genre here. There just wasn't a lot going on in the song. It was just kind of doing its thing, being very regular but still decent track. It's just kind of there, you know. I don't know how else to put it. It had a pretty decent rhythm though, I have to give it that. You know, it just kind of kept up that same pace. Narratively speaking though, it does seem to kind of tie into the track before it, where all of the thoughts and feelings on here seem at least similar, if not exactly the same. So it's almost redundant in that way, how well it connects, but it kind of stops from becoming that way just based on how different this one is in style, in sound, than the last. Gold on the Ceiling is the other song that I have heard before. I was very familiar with this one. In fact, because of the people I was around at the time, I heard this song a lot because someone that I knew then really liked this track, and I did as well. And actually revisiting this was somewhat of a nostalgia trip for me. I forgot how much I like this song. It's got some really good guitar playing on it. I have to say that's one of my favorite things about it. But there's such a good chorus on this track too, and it doesn't overdo it. It doesn't overstay its welcome in any way. It just kind of comes in, does that chorus a couple times, you know, makes you feel good about it, and that's about it. And really, it just does what it does and does it well. The lyricism on this track is one that I find particularly interesting too, because there's a lot of different interpretations that float around about this song from the looks of it. The way that I guess I have always taken it is for it to be about the music industry and fame in general, and how people will try to deceive you for your money. The phrase gold on the ceiling to me just rings in a way of, I have this wealth that everyone can see because it's right up there on the ceiling, but it might not be particularly the easiest to get to because it's all the way up there and you can't reach it. So therefore there's some shady tactics that go on to get to that gold on the ceiling that he refers to. Little Black Submarines is the name of track 4. Seems like we got another kind of chilled out song here.
Told my girl I'd be back, operator plans, but they just disappear.
There's really not a lot going on here, but it's kind of a pretty song regardless. Okay, here we go. I figured this was coming sooner or later. They really have a way of making the guitar parts just feel really good. This is a very satisfying payoff here. Alright. Okay, so Ben from the future here. I keep showing up in these videos lately because apparently I've become a cynical asshole in recent times, so I did criticize that song on a couple things during this review, during this reaction video, but I really think that now that I've heard it again, it's pretty much above all of the critiques that I tried to throw its way, and I'm really wondering now that I'm in the middle of editing this if I'm going to be hopping back in here again, because I wasn't really even in the best of moods while I was recording this, so I may make a second appearance here, but I just want to hop in here and say that that was absolutely perfect for the genre that it's in, for what you would be expecting from it, and the emotive quality was all there, the instrumental quality was all there. I mean, great song. Absolutely love it now that I've came back to it outside of the context of this video. I'm just gonna say that, and we'll see about the rest of this here. Moneymaker is the next one on here. Quite a bit shorter. Solid just rhythm, keeping it up here. That's not the way, a lot of charisma on this chorus here. Only problem with this is that I feel like I know exactly where the rest of the song is going to go. It's still got a really good groove to it though. Oh, alright. This is somewhat interesting, okay. Yeah, I'd be lying if I told you I was expecting that, so I guess I stand corrected. Nice fade out there, alright. There's not a lot to say about that song, other than that interesting guitar solo part there that I didn't already talk about, and well, I guess I did talk about the guitar solo portion as well, but pretty simple track, and really it's been kind of sticking to that this whole time. Most of the stuff on here has been pretty basic stuff, you know, but I don't discredit it for that because it's clearly not going for a lot more than that, and it pulls it off really well. This track had a really good rhythm to it. It was really easy to kind of nod your head along to. If I knew the lyrics before, it would have been very easy to sing along to. And the song lyrically is definitely about gold diggers, as I guess you would say. A woman who wants to get with the narrator for his money, which actually kind of ties in, now that I'm thinking about it, to both Gold on the Ceiling and the two songs before that, because you've kind of got some sort of romantic problem happening here, and it's also someone trying to get our narrator into a vulnerable position for the obtaining of his wealth. So actually that's kind of interesting now that I've gone too far into stretches and very minute details. Even though I said that at the time, I do not actually believe that's a stretch anymore, because if you don't look at it this way, that means that nothing on this entire album connects in any way to Gold on the Ceiling, and I don't want to believe that that's the case, so we're gonna go ahead and say that that's just canon now, okay? This ties in, alright? That's all we're saying about it. But regardless of that, you know, I mean, the lyrics are pretty obvious. And yeah, other than that, it was pretty simple, and it just did one thing in particular that I wasn't expecting it to. So I can't complain. Decent track. Run Right Back is the next one. Really appreciate the tuning here. It sounds very different. Yeah, despite it all kind of falling into this garage rock and pop rock kind of umbrella, it sounds very different from track to track. Pardon me if it's only me hearing it, but there's kind of like a western twang on this. I don't know if that makes any sense, but doing some interesting things here. Again, it's pretty simple, but I really love this kind of groovy chorus section. More distorted sound on the guitar here, just something satisfying about it. Decent, okay. Again, lyrically very simple, and there's not really a whole lot to get into here. It's just that it seems like there's an on-again, off-again relationship going on with some woman and the narrator of the song, and he keeps running back to her, as is said quite a few times on this song right here. Just had like a good rhythm to it again. Pretty fun track while it's on. Already though, I can kind of tell that that is going to be one of the less memorable ones off of the album for sure. Just didn't really have a lot standing out about it. And one thing this album is really making me think about is AM by Arctic Monkeys. It really kind of gives me the same feeling as I get when I listen to that album, where it's just some kind of like fun garage rock music that isn't really anything like deep and conceptual, but it definitely just has this catchy vibe to it. It's not something overly ambitious, but it's just fun to listen to. Sister is the next one. Nice drumming here, alright. Something very nice about the main guitar melody here to me. Kind of trudging along the cool kind of way, I guess. Just pausing here briefly to note that the use of the word sister on here is really odd, because he made it sound like it was a relationship that was leading up to a breakup in the first verse there, and it was really kind of sounding that way. At least it's almost blatantly stated, but now with that kind of in the mix, I'm rather confused as to what this is getting at, but is what it is, I guess. Got me hung up and drawn to you so long. Okay, the only way I can actually go back and try to make any sort of sense of that is that they've become so disconnected that the term sister is more accurate to him, just because they don't connect on the relationship level of things anymore. So it'd be like you calling another guy your brother when you're not actually brothers. That's, you know, popular, that's common. So maybe it's kind of like that, I guess. I don't know, it's such weird phrasing, is what it is on there, because that song, the simplicity of it really just kind of made it become the vibe that it is. It's really easy to chill out to that song, I want to say. That's probably one of the best instances of that on here. It wasn't too loud and rock-based and oriented in that way. It was just pretty mellow all the way through, but it wasn't necessarily like very stripped back like something like Little Black Submarines earlier on the album was. It just kind of chilled out. It was just there. So, decent track. Not one that I would necessarily know if I'd come back to, I guess, but still an okay one. Hell of a Season is the next one. Lyrically, that's still kind of pondering on a lot of the same things as the last one, I guess. I mean, maybe this person has been having a rough couple of months and wants the other person in this narrative to kind of fall back on. He's coming back to the same relationship, maybe. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm getting from it. Very similar feelings, and it was somewhat repetitive, I guess, in the lyrical department of things. I feel like the chorus was repeated far too many times on that track, and honestly, yeah, it just seemed kind of fluffed out. Really, I feel like if you did all of the same things in like 3 minutes maximum, it probably would have felt a little bit better, but I just don't know why they stretched this one out in particular. And I say that like it was some 7-minute song, but really it was only 3 minutes and 45 seconds, so I guess I shouldn't have really been getting bored in it, you know. Other than that, I mean, decent track. It's nothing particularly inherently wrong with it. It's just that it didn't do a lot. Stop Stop is the next one. The drumming has stayed pretty consistent on this album, and it usually sounds pretty crisp. It's kind of a nice leading riff here. Blues elements of the sound is really shining through on the chorus here. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that they put a solo in here, but that didn't really do a lot. Okay, this is cool. I bet after this it's gonna get a lot longer, right? Yeah. Okay, that's about what I figured. Like I said, on that track, you had a lot more of the blues elements going into it, I guess, and that's not something that I've really been pointing out on some of the other tracks where it's certainly indicative as well, but there was a lot of that going on. Pretty fun, catchy track. I liked the dynamics that it took in there where it would kind of strip way back and then, you know, get back to its regular sound. It didn't do anything super crazy with it, but it still just kind of had this fun pacing to it. All in all, the lyrical content on here is still just far from surprising. It just is kind of simple, I guess. And like I said, again, it was kind of cool that they put a solo on there, but it really just wasn't impressive, I guess, in any way. And to me, that's kind of the whole point. So if you don't do that much, then why was it really there? But either way, whatever. Okay track.
Hey, so I again did not give enough credit to this track because it's really fun, and I feel like that's exactly what it's trying to do. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I was just taking it too seriously at this point.
Nova Baby, next one on here. Drumming has a faster approach on this one, it almost seems like. A more downtrodden melody to this one. Kind of a more depressed sound this time around again.
That party dress is such a mess. You need all your hands.
Very nice chorus here. Some bright sound against comparison.
Don't know what you want.
This point is kind of annoying that he's just singing about a girl again, but still, I'm not gonna let it hinder my enjoyment. This portion sounds really nice. This is a far better solo. Still doing interesting things. Alright. Another fun track on there. That's definitely one of my favorites from the last few. Just had an interesting sound to it. You know, it just kept it kind of flowing into different parts. It kind of had that very stripped back portion there where it was mostly just the singing and the drumming kind of keeping it together, and then it led into a solo, which was perfect because that was a far more impressive instrumental track than the former by quite a significant margin in my humble opinion. But the beginning part, the way it sounded kind of more downtrodden, I guess, really made the next part of the song where it was much brighter sound all the more better. So yeah, that's definitely one that I've liked on here. One thing that I have to say is really bothering me that I am noticing is that sometimes when I am going to describe the traits of the track that I just heard, I start to second guess myself on if that was even the song that I just heard or the one before it. They are starting to become very formulaic, and it almost all roots back to the fact that the lyricism here is very monotonous and just kind of seems to be stating a lot of the same things themes a lot of the time. It just kind of keeps coming back to the same old in that way, and it kind of provides a lot less separation in the songs here, and that's one big gripe that I guess I have for it. But Mind Eraser is the closer on here already. Oh, I love that riff. That sounds very large. Yeah, there's nothing lyrically to this verse, but it sounds really nice. Kind of clever to end it on that line. Okay, I see what you did there.
And really the whole song in and of itself was, this song is clearly going back and looking at the end of this relationship that's going on for the rest of the album, and I think that it actually brings a whole lot of cohesion to the whole thing, and really gives a purpose to the fact that most of these songs he was just singing about a girl, as I criticized it for earlier in this review.
Again, that last track, definitely had fun with that one. That one is one of the better ones on here, just because of those like really big riffs that it introduced. I think that it just had this much louder sound to it than some of the rest of the album did, and you know, it was pretty fun for that reason. And it's another track where if I knew the lyrics, it would be really fun and easy to sing along to, just kind of nod your head along with. And really, I think that that is this album's strong suit in general, but the negative aspect of it is the fact that I literally just got done listening to it, and much of this album is already escaping me, and I'm like racking my brain on things to describe it with. I feel like most of this was, generally speaking, pretty forgettable, and that's kind of an unfortunate thing, because I did think that the album was pretty fun while I was listening to it, for sure. It's it's just an upbeat listen. Well, I guess it's not necessarily upbeat at every moment, but it's just kind of a fun rock record. Really kind of seems to be the strong suit of everything that I've heard from the Black Keys. But for the most part, the songs that I remember from this track list, even right now, literally as I just got done listening to it, are the ones that I already knew. I mean, when I'm reading through the track list, I can like just vaguely correlate some of these track titles to like, oh yeah, that's what that song sounded like, that's what it was about. But I think a lot of the lyrical similarities kind of came down on it in that way too, where this all just seems to be kind of this pardon me, but almost whiny nature to it, where he's talking about this relationship and how it's falling apart or did fall apart and he misses it or so on and so forth. There's not really a lot that strays away from that, and the two best songs on here I would totally argue are Gold on the Ceiling and Little Black Submarines, because they do actually stray away from that, and it almost does feel like it should have varied a lot more than it did. Overall, this was all pretty basic and surface level, to the point where every song just kind of meshes into each other. I guess my AM comparison was pretty fair, because I kind of have the same feelings towards that record in this day and age, much longer ago than my reaction initially was to that album, when really it was kind of more iffy on that side of things. And now that I'm really putting that one in perspective, and have been for quite some time, it ends up not really being a favorite of mine for much of the same reasons as this. So even if we're going to go that deep into that comparison that I already made, I do feel a similar sentiment there. Really, with both of these records, they're both fun listens. They're fine to just turn on whenever, but at the end of the day, I am going to probably take just a few tracks from each one and play those from time to time. In this case, probably being Gold on the Ceiling, Little Black Submarines, maybe Lonely Boy every once in a while, and that's about it. So yeah, I guess I'm feeling probably like a
7-.
about a 10 on this. But with all that being said, let me know what you thought of this album down in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Drop a like on the video if you did like what you saw today, and subscribe to the channel for more music related content coming your way. Hit the bell for notifications on that same thing as well. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in the next video.